been working on them for 2 years now.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Special Planning Commission of December 17th to order and acknowledge that we do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 on the agenda is a tax incremental district number 14 and a public hearing on the proposed project plan boundaries and creation of tax incremental district number 14. Applicant, City of West Bend. Good evening, Phil.
Good evening. Would you like me to take you through the project plan and as part of the public hearing, or
If you just
Sounds
brief.
good.
briefly? Okay. Well, good evening. Phil Costin with Ellers, and nice to be here with you tonight. In your packet, you had, I think, handed out as well, you have a copy of a draft project plan for what would be tax increment district number 14. I think as many of you are aware, the city has been pursuing this opportunity for the last couple of years. The city is kind of quickly running out of industrial land available for potential expansions of local companies or attraction of new companies coming into the city. And this opportunity arose to purchase a couple of properties that I think everybody feels would make for a wonderful new industrial park in the city. For those who have not been through this process, I want to just give you a real quick description of procedurally what we're asking of you tonight, and then the process to create the district. So prior to this meeting at 5 o'clock, we had a organizational meeting of the Joint Review Board. And the Joint Review Board is made up of the representative from the school district, the county, the technical college, acting mayor, was the city representative, and then a citizen rep was also at the meeting. So that 5-member board met, organized. We went through the project plan with them. No action tonight by them, but it's just informational, organizational for that joint review board. Takes us to this meeting, which is the public hearing on TID 14. There is a corresponding resolution in your packet. If you approve it tonight, it'll go to the city council at their January 20th meeting for action. And then it's scheduled to go back to the Joint Review Board for final action on February 4th at 4 p.m. So your approval tonight, if you approve it, would be the first step, and then council and final Joint Review Board. So 3 steps to approve the tax increment district. So that's process-wise what we're looking to have done. The project plan, I'm going to kind of walk through really quickly. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time walking through all the elements of it, but I want to give you kind of the high-level review of the project. There's a map to help orient you to the site that is up on the screen. It's on the south side of the city, and in the project plan, we not only have the parcel map, but we have a map showing, as you can see there, and the description of breakdown by area. And we'll be referring to those areas as we talk through the project plan. There's an area A, B, and C that will be referenced, and they're corresponding on the map. They're the kind of the pink area, the green area, and the tan area are all broken out by A, B, and C. The City Council last night kind of authorized the first step of this as well, which was to authorize us to proceed with acquisition of land. We're not going to do that unless this moves forward, but we put that in motion as a starting point last night as well, as that's really the first expenditure, main expenditure that'll be upcoming for this tax increment district. There's an executive summary on page 3. If you want to turn to that, I'm going to spend just a few minutes to talk about the executive summary as a starting point. We've been working very closely with city staff to put together project costs and potential development assumptions in this project plan. And so this is kind of a quick summary of those discussions. Estimated project costs are about $12.8 million. The intent here to mitigate risk to the city is to break this up into phases, and I talked about A, B, and C earlier. The intent is that the city under A will be purchasing land, and then later this year, later in 2020, we'll be looking at putting in the infrastructure for the first area to start to attract interest in the sites for development. Area B and Area C are part of that $12.8 million as well, and they would be built out as development dictates. The intent here is that the city doesn't want to get too far ahead of the development, rather let the development dictate how quickly infrastructure is put in place. So a total of about $12.8 million of expenditures have been identified for this area, including mostly water, sewer, street, stormwater, property acquisition. We do have built in here also development assumptions or development incentives as part of the assumptions to be used if necessary to help entice a development to come to the city or expand in the city. In return, under the economic development section, you can see that we're looking at in area A and B alone about $60 million of estimated development to support that roughly $12.8 million of cost. We haven't factored in Area C yet as far as potential development. It gets hard to forecast out that far, but we're looking at areas A and B as being sufficient, hopefully, to be able to cover the full cost. Area C then would develop as need be, as development dictates that to be developed over time. This would be an industrial district, the first new district in the city since I think I heard 2011 earlier today. It's an industrial district. What that means is it must be zoned and suitable for industrial purpose, meaning we can't create the district as an industrial district and 2 years later, if nothing's going on, convert it to residential or retail. It has to be zoned and suitable for industrial for the full life of the district. The full life is 20 years. That's the maximum life of this type of district that can be put in place. And what we're estimating right now is the full 20 years. But again, how things play out there, the development as it's being realized, will really determine the length of how long this district will stay in place. In the project plan, we have identified project costs and a breakdown of the project costs. In the handout that you have in front of you on page 18 of the plan is the breakdown by the three areas I've talked about, area A, B, and C. The acquisition of land and some related costs is about $3.8 million. The infrastructure needed for the first area A development infrastructure to be put in place is about $3 million. There are some alternates that have been identified, which may or may not be needed depending on what development occurs. That's about $1.4 million. And then about $2.2 million for area B and another roughly $2.4 million for area C. Again, the attempt here is that the city would like to kind of phase this over time to make sure we're not too far ahead of the project, the development, and to try to mitigate some of the risk to the city. We also have a breakdown at the second fold-out page on page 22 that came from the city. We're working closely with the city on putting together development assumptions. Area A is about 62.3 acres of developable land. Area B is about 71.4 acres, and Area C a little over 40 acres of land that could be developed over time. This is a forecast showing estimated development values on certain dates. I mean, it's a projection, and that's what it is at this point, is a projection of what it could look like. To give you some comfort in this process and knowing that we're not being too aggressive in our assumptions, you can see that we're forecasting development all the way through 2033 in Area A and Area B. So we're not projecting a lot of development right away, which would, again, if we did that, would increase the potential revenue. We're really trying to show this being built out conservatively over a number of years, trying to be a little more realistic in what we see as the potential in the market. There is a cash flow that is put in the project plan per requirement. That's on page 25. I can tell you there's so many assumptions in this cash flow, I don't even know where to start, but there's a lot of assumptions. We're assuming development levels, valuation levels, tax rates. We're looking at interest rates over a 10-year period. So there's a lot of assumptions, but it's a requirement that we kind of pull the whole plan together, show a cash flow. What's more meaningful really is a kind of an annual update, so you have a better handle where the tax increment district is. But we are trying to project out that this will work at what we think are reasonable development levels in the city. We are also required on the last couple of pages to address a number of issues like annex property, how much development would occur in this area as retail. We don't expect any of it to be retail. It's all going to be industrial. Zoning ordinance change, master plan, and how it fits within the master plan, if there are any relocation costs, et cetera. So all of those items have been built into this plan as well, just to make sure that we have a kind of a complete look at this area and what will be needed for this development to occur. So a lot of assumptions that have to go into this because we're looking at a 20-year window. I can tell you that our attempt here in working with the staff is to make sure that we're not being too aggressive with assumptions. We're phasing. We want to see this phased to mitigate risk. We're showing development occurring over an expanded time period, not all happening at one time, to make sure that we're being realistic as to what the market can absorb for land. I've worked pretty closely with Mark on making sure that there's kind of this gut check, I call it. Where are we at value per acre? Is that realistic for this market? So we are looking at how this fits within what you see in other developments in the city of West Bend, other industrial development in the city of West Bend, to make sure that it's realistic as well. So that's a quick overview of the project plan, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Phil, looking at the cash flow, I know we've got some projections that are there for 2020, but the cash flow in 2020 is zero. Is that because of the constructional lag?
Yeah, if with any district, if you have development occurs in 2020, it's first valued in 21 and you see revenue in 22. So you always have this little bit of a lag period that occurs. So we're really not projecting any increment value until 2023 in this plan. So the increment value would be assuming that you'd be building out the site in 20, you'd sell land in 20, you develop in 21, valued in 22, and you see revenue to the TID in 23. So that's kind of the first year of revenue that we are anticipating.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions for Phil? Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding this issue? If so, please step up to the podium and let us know what you're thinking.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion carried. Item number 2, consideration of resolution designating proposed boundaries and approving a project plan for tax incremental district number 14, applicant City of West Bend.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign, motion carries. Being there no further business before the Special Planning Commission, I hereby adjourn. Good night, everyone.